Welcome everybody to the Neighborhood Food Network call. And do we have Sarah with us? Is she?
Yes, it's her. It says Mitchell Yachu, which I had to ask her how to pronounce it earlier because I knew I was.
Yeah, my computer actually just completely would not do any camera, so I had to get two computers and my phone, and it was kind of crazy, but I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, great. Okay, Sarah, and let me just screen share 1 second. Sarah is from Unity Gardens right here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And here's the About Us page. It is that their mission is to improve community health, which we are totally in alignment with, right? And they're increasing the accessibility of fruits and vegetables, as well as providing education on nutrition and food preparation. We totally love that. It's a collaborative network of community gardens and all accessibility to healthy, locally grown food. And it incorporates governments, universities, schools, churches, nonprofits, neighbors, all kinds of things. I mean, this really is what the Neighborhood Food Network stands for. We are gathering our neighbors together on our streets, sort of like the Neighborhood Crime Watch program, to ask them to start creating local food security on their street. So growing food in their front yard, backyard, rooftop, balconies, all that kind of thing. But you are already doing this with community gardens. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got started and more about your program?
Absolutely. Our dignified free food model was somewhat of an accident. I'm a public health nurse. And when I was taking my students, sister school of Notre Dame University at St. Mary's, out to places in public health settings where people would try to have health screenings and get resources like food or laundry services or showers, etc. I would be taking some of our most vulnerable people, and my students would be checking blood pressures and going like, oh, you have hypertension, you should watch your blood pressure. Ridiculous, while handing them high salt, high fat foods leading straight to the exact strokes, diabetes, cardiac illness that we were trying to prevent. So an embarrassing 6 years later, I said to some of my friends that were either without homes or otherwise vulnerable, I'm like, I'm thinking about doing a garden where anyone could just pick fresh food. And the response was really everything. I owe my entire last couple decades of career to these folks, because one person reflected on their past and gardening with their grandma, and the other person looked forward to eating greens in the future. So I went home saying like, oh, good, everyone likes my garden idea. And then I realized, wait a minute, I teach this stuff. When you're in the culture of poverty, especially multi-generational poverty and vulnerability, you're stuck in a crisis mode, a here and now focus that keeps people trapped in poverty. And yet you're not reflecting on the past with fond memories, nor are you looking forward to the future with hope. Yet when I shared the garden idea, literally what I consider the gift of Unity Gardens, one person reflected on fond memories with their grandma in the garden, and one person looked forward to eating greens in the future. And that was that aha moment that led me to start one little garden. I emailed 5 of my friends, hey, I'm going to do this garden where people in poverty could pick whatever they want. That email went from 5 people to 1,800 by the end of 2008. It has been absolutely crazy. It actually failed, and someone that most people know as Mayor Pete it told me to get constant contact or something. Anyway, that was 14 or 15 years ago now. We have 44 gardens this year, anywhere between 20 and 60. They're not just food for the poor, we do that, but they are edible parks, places where people can not only protect their physical health through eating naturally grown fruits and vegetables, completely destigmatized and unencumbered access, but also social health. What happened, when did community service become punishment? I thought it was something that made you feel good about being part of something bigger than yourself. And then emotional and psychological health, when we look at the mitigating effects of anxiety with green space or antidepressant effects of soil, and economical health, where at a base, productive people or healthy people are productive people. So we have all these measures of health, and environmental health, of course, where we're looking at pollinator habitats and mitigation of climate issues and flooding and just renewable energy and all sorts of things that protect our planet and our bodies. So what basically has happened is everyone's gotten on board. And Anne and I had a joke. I'm notorious for texts. My texts always have spelling errors. And I said something about a prison, and she's like, oh, prison gardens are a real thing, you know. And sure enough, we even have two of our Unity gardens, our prisons. We call them sharing gardens because people don't just wander freely through. But we have prisons and nursing homes and parks and public spaces and private spaces and businesses that host Unity gardens. And I'm happy to either share some of our journey. I have both PowerPoint with a lot of pictures. You guys are sharing some of the videos when we won that national award with USA Today. But I'm happy to answer questions. I think sometimes the organically grown conversation can be equally effective.
Sure. Well, both sounds good. So let's just start and ask, does anybody have any questions from the get-go? And then if we don't have any, then we can look at some other presentation and maybe people will ask questions based on that.
Well, I have did you end up getting any grant money to help start these gardens? And I'm sure you had to work with a lot of municipalities in order to gain access to the land.
So good for you, Anne. People usually wait till a little bit later to ask the difficult questions, and I really encourage them to do that because the model in South Bend, Indiana, or in St. Joe County, Indiana, or Northern Indiana is fantastic. But if it's not replicable, does it really matter? And my answer is it is replicable. It's all about relationships. So we have, our tagline is we're growing food, growing health, growing community, because it is all about relationships and what we all do together to share. So at first, no, I had a little piece of land that I decided it was right in the triangle where people go to get meals and other resources. And so I literally just started growing food very simply on this 600 square foot of land.
So that was your land?
Yeah, it happened.
It just so happened to be closely located to a place where other people were traffic, moving around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And 600 square feet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But that year later, the city did kind of want that property. I won't use the word eminent domain, however, it might have been discussed at that point. So they suggested I go out to the west side of South Bend, which is notoriously more poverty stricken and full of higher crime rates, etc. So we moved out there. There was a 10-acre parcel that they said I could use for a year. Now, I'm not a farmer. We do everything by hand. I'm a gardener, so it kind of freaked me out at first. But I got them to put water on that one garden, and we did just 8 200-foot crop rows, like just highway kind of thing, and I started doing that, waving and gardening, and people would come by a little bit, 10, 15 people a day, but the media was all over it. Nurse Grows Wellness. And I mean, every week, every month, probably for almost the 15 years, they've really been kind in sharing our story. 2010 came that first grant. I didn't even understand why we needed to be a nonprofit. Talk about a serendipity every step of the way. And people encouraged me. So Barnes and Thornburg made us a nonprofit for free. Our local hospital system offered to fund us for a year. They kind of implied 3 years, but then, didn't. But anyway, so when they did that, rather than take any salary or anything, I bought, I think, business cards and seeds and just started really putting energy into sharing what I was doing. We did get one grant for a shaded shelter and a sign that we painted ourselves that said "Pick Food Free." And you literally would have thought we opened the doors. People came, hundreds of people would come, and like Mitch and I are out there gardening, and they would stand kind of funny, like, over by the shaded shelter. I go, "Hi, welcome." And by now we had 12 Unity gardens and we're in the news all the time. And they'd be like, "Hi," and they'd act real funny. And I go, "Well, can I help you?" They go, "Where's the food?" And now we know why they were confused. There's 2 reasons. One is we're 5 generations displaced from the farm. Most of us have not grown on a farm or grown food. And if we have, it's because we're speaking to the choir a little bit in this audience. But, people are really displaced. They don't know where to find the radish versus the cherry tomato, etc. The second reason is Oh, excuse my dog. The second reason is that we all know what happens, what the hidden rules are when you go to a charity. I'm standing over here on my side of the line, and I'm handing you poor people food. And it makes me feel good. I'm part of the solution. I'm like giving you guys healthy, fresh food, feel pretty good about my role. But this line serves to divide us. And when I'm handing you food, what it feels like on your side of the line is that what I'm saying is if you were only smarter, more industrious, wealthier, more tenacious, I don't know, fill in the blank, more like me, that you'd be over here with me. So at Unity Gardens, we've literally erased the line. We've destigmatized the idea. We've transcended the usual charitable dance by erasing the line, and not separating those who give from those who receive. We all eat from the garden. It's an edible park. And by doing that, people come, and they may be a little, have some trepidation, but they come. And we have garden guides, people that are out there to just wave and greet and show people around, do tasting tours and harvesting health, and develop the relationships that keep people coming back. Imagine the difference when you're taking your family and standing in line, and the kids have to be in line, and you go up to the front of the line and you're like, do you have this piece of paper or this ID, or did you try to get 2 jobs, or are you from the right zip code? Oh, no kale for you. Ridiculous. We spend millions of dollars to try to get people to eat healthy in our nation, and then we make it hard to get. So at Unity Gardens, literally, the kids are running around. They get to hold a chicken or find the eggs, or pop a pea pod in their mouth and play and climb trees. And parents are doing harvesting and tasting tours and sharing recipes, and that joy keeps people coming back. And as they come back, they start incorporating healthy food into their diet and green space and activity, and all of a sudden, before you know it, they are they're incorporating a better lifestyle just because it's there.
Are they so I'm assuming you're getting a lot of good volunteers out of this as well that come in.
Well, so it's been interesting. We know how we do a lot of classes, free classes, and we guide these 44 Unity Gardens that have volunteer garden leaders. We have the one main one that we all work at as paid employees now. And then what we do is we teach people, we guide them not only in growing gardens and infrastructure and all of that, and harnessing resources, but then we also help them with how to harness volunteers. We've gotten quite good at it over the 14 years, and we've had tens of thousands of volunteers engaged in the Unity Gardens. It's more and more people.
Thousands. That's fantastic. Yeah, really fantastic. Thomas, you had a question. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I would like to ask my question. First of all, I would like to say thank you. I have almost tears in my eyes for what you've done.
Oh, thanks.
What you've done. And you are definitely part of the solution. I was in Michigan City, 20 miles from where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, there seems to be a disconnect between the media praising you for what you're doing and then all the lies they have been dumping on everybody and fear they're causing with COVID and vaccines and everything else. There just seems to be a disconnect there. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I have some pretty interesting thoughts on that. And I was jotting some notes down. There is some common ground that we all have, this idea that we want to, keep fear and anger as not motivating forces for any of us. I mean, we know just at a physiological level that cortisol is bad for us at a cellular level and can be ancestral damage as well. And the only thing that really can mitigate that is kindness and sharing. And so what I find that has happened, and I'm old, I'm really old, I'm 61.
You're not old.
So I love the 60s. It's great. So I got it. So I really believe that what I found, the magic of Unity Gardens is not necessarily in the food. The food's good. It's naturally grown, chemical free. We do it all manually. But the magic is in what we're doing together through kindness. People, no matter if they think differently or believe differently, all have some certain base values. And when you find those together, you create joy. And so we transcend some of the other issues that may or may not really affect each of us. But if we don't give them power and we're just kind to one another and share, etc., we can live together without those other issues interfering.
Yeah, it's like the garden becomes a haven of sharing and kindness. And we've been saying that with the Neighborhood Food Network. We really could bridge the political divide and all the other division going on, because nobody cares if you're a Republican or a Democrat, or if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you're sharing extra peaches that you have with them, right? They are just going to be delighted. So food really can bring people together, and you are bringing people together all across Indiana, right? That's where this is, South Bend, Indiana.
Well, it's interesting because, and Tom could speak to this, Michigan City is really close. I mean, we literally are not that far. It's in Indiana. So I'm kind of north central Indiana, and he's just a little teeny bit west. In fact, the kids in one of their most challenged school systems come out every year, the third graders, and they've never even seen green space. You know, so Michigan City has a great food network there of urban farmers and whatnot, but somehow these community gardens that, you know, most of you are all probably familiar with are such a different model. The idea of a unity garden is so outrageous. Free food for everyone. I spent the first 4 years trying to mitigate the ideal like that it was impossible. But here we are 14, 15 years later, and no one's saying that. It's somewhat of a miracle, but I think as Doctor said earlier, if you fail to give fear power, you know, and in my case, it's just a walk of faith, because, you know, how do you create a building and staff that you have to pay for and expenses and all of that when you're in the business of free food? And I think Anne did not get her question answered because we do have grants. And I never had governmental funding at all until this year. And the county is giving us money for a parking lot so we can do an accessibility area, and people vulnerable in terms of mobility can actually access our Unity Gardens now. But everything else has been grants, donations, and then we do have a farmer's market where we sell food from one little like area, but we don't just sell the food and its specialty things. We have award-winning honey in our naturally kept beehives, and then we have value-added products like habanero honey. Who wouldn't like that? It's great on pizza, by the way, or hot sauces, etc. And our website and our Facebook page, and it's all full of all of our different condiments and products, etc. But we take it very seriously, and we want to help other communities do this too.
Frankie was asking if your gardens can be viewed on Google Maps.
Yeah.
Well, you have 44 of them. I'm thinking.
Right. So some of them are quite small. The big one is 7 acres. And so oh, that one movie, the garden is a sanctuary for all, is really interesting. But anyway, so yes, you can. In fact, on my PowerPoint, you know, there's a Google Earth picture of the 7-acre garden. The other little ones are going to be harder to find.
This one right here, do you want us to play this for a minute?
If you'd like to. I mean, it's Jonathan. He's our main garden guide. Sure.
Is this in South Bend?
Yeah, this is the main garden.
The main garden. It's the 10-acre one.
7.
Oh, you have goats?
Yeah, that's Ghost and Shadow.
When I give a tour can last anywhere from 5 minutes to 2.5 hours. Depends on how much people want to learn.
Milkweed.
Now I like
She was trying to pepper. Can you guys hear it or no? I can't.
Yeah.
different reasons.
No, not really.
No?
Some come for to talk.
Oh, is there a problem with the sound? Hang
A lot
on.
of time when they come pick with them.
There we go.
Okay,
sorry.
now I have a handful, and I said, "Where's your bag?" And I put it in. They said, "I thought you was picking that for yourself." I was like, "No, I'm talking to you." I said, "It's hard to talk to you and just stand there and conversate with you, but when I'm helping you, we become closer. You know me better, and I'm here to help you." So
Aw.
it's a lot of different roles that I play in community garden. You never know what I'm gonna run into, and when I'm at work, that's all I'm thinking about. Who am I gonna talk to? Who am I gonna inspire? Who am I gonna help?
That's really wonderful.
Hey.
So is he a paid person or a
Just
volunteer?
like that.
So that's interesting about Jonathan, because Jonathan was a volunteer and he was a neighbor. He and his mom used to
I
walk.
always let people walk around the
Okay.
chicken and enjoy them, and then after they're
sorry.
done, I say, "Hey, you
Wait,
guys want to
it's
go
still
in?"
talking.
And
One
their
second.
eyes open up. We can go in. I'm like, "Yeah, you can go in," and I'll open the door, and they'll come in.
Hang on a second. I'm sorry. I don't know where it went. Okay, let me pause it.
People come.
Okay, go ahead. You can
So
explain.
Jonathan was a neighbor who would come with his mom, who was a bit more elderly than the doctor and I.
Mhm.
Anyway, and they would walk through the garden, and Jonathan had diabetes, so his feet would hurt and his back was hurting. He has a full-time job in some kind of manufacturing. And then he would come and volunteer. We have volunteer days. One of the main times are Tuesdays, 9 to 12, and he started coming regularly. But then he would hang out and he would show other people like what was growing in the garden, etc. He is our inspiration for the whole Garden Guide program, which has become one of our strongest programs. Paid people, whether they're summer interns or Jonathan, who are there to informally greet people and make them comfortable in the garden, reconnect them to healthy food and to one another. And Jonathan is a gentle soul. His mom passed away, and he is now inseparable from the garden. His health improved just walking through the pathways, eating out of the garden, and just maybe more than anything else, the joy of sharing it is just permeates everything about him. And so Jonathan works pretty much every single day, evening shift after his regular job. And then he teaches those summer interns that we have. They each get to do at least one shift with Jonathan, and then they do the same thing through the days.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you can tell he's so full of joy. It'd be hard for any sickness to be taken over when there's that much joy in a person's body, right, Dr. Plasker? You stayed with us?
I am, yeah, and you know what? That's really what a beautiful way to bring all this together.
Yeah.
It's really a matter of focusing on the right things and filling yourself up, keeping yourself strong. And there's always going to be people that sadly pass on. And, we want to live every day at our fullest. We call it 100% for 100 years and beyond. And you're doing it. This beautiful work. You've inspired me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's definitely a team effort. Everyone can be involved. This last year has been full of such joy. As I said, I'm old, I'm 61. So it's time to think about a lot of things and imagine what happens to me when I drive up to the garden. And first of all, I see like a zillion cars. There's all these, 4 or 5 cars right there in the morning. I'm like, uh-oh, did I forget a volunteer group? No, it's my staff. Like, staff, what? It literally was just Mitch and I and, the summer like intern team, et cetera. So we have this whole succession team of 4 people doing this dance with us over the next decade. And what better generations to hand off something like this than the millennials and Gen Zs that kind of front face with their value systems. And then I look and there's this big building. Okay, I had a porta potty for 14 years. And South Bend, Indiana is not warm or temperate. So imagine what that's like to be able to have phones and be predictably present and host our own classes right there where we could take advantage of this beautiful green space and not just passive learning with our little PowerPoints. And then at the exact time where we need to be present and have the succession team, we also won the USA Today Award for Best of Earth Kind. And then we're propelled into the national spotlight. And I think to think about this it's actually 361 days that these blessings have come in, and it's just amazing. So our next 10 years we'll be doing the succession dance, but not as much in the day-to-day activities as we'll start looking at other communities and helping guide them as they have questions about how to do this there.
That's great. So do you have Zoom chats or calls or think like you're saying to help other people to do this? Can people find out more through your website? How can people, if they want to do this in their town, get more in-depth detail about that?
Absolutely. So our website has a phone number and email on it, contact us information pretty upfront. That is actually my personal cell phone, so people can text or call. We do have now real phones, and our number's super easy even. It's like the best number. It's our area code, which is 574, and then it's 222-2266. What? Best number ever. But I really can't wrap my head around this office phone because it has a cord, and then like I'm stuck to it, and then I'm like, oh, let me check my calendar, and I have to get my cell phone, or text me, oh, let me give you my cell phone. So it's kind of a hard habit to break, I think, after 15 years. So my cell phone is still on the website, and you can easily text me or email me, and then we go from there. Every community has the same kind of individual flavor as each of us.
So thank you for making yourself available. We've reached the 8 o'clock point. In fact, we've gone a little bit over, but before you go, I just want to point out to everybody that, that Sarah, you simply had an idea that you wanted to start a garden, and you didn't want to come from fear and all that. You noticed that people responded thinking about their grandmother, thinking about what the food they were going to eat in the future. They were thinking about love and creating a healthy future. To sort of summarize that, right? People coming together and connecting and all that. And I just want to remind everybody that you can do something like this. It doesn't have to be a garden. It could be a garden. It could be somebody started a food pantry. There's many different ways. You could have like you could start a farmer's market, right? Which also brings people together. You could just have a potluck, right? You could have a seed swap. There's all different kinds of things that you can do to bring community together based on food. You can have a neighborhood food network meeting, right? You can print out our flyers and invite all of your neighbors to come to a Saturday morning breakfast with bagels and grapes and coffee or whatever, and get your neighbors together and talk about how you're going to create local food security. And you don't have to know how to do it. We have a lot of resources on our website. You can also ask other people, how do you think we could do this? Right? Just know that your neighbors are a resource. There are people around you that have a vast amount of knowledge and they want to share it. And so I just want to thank you, Sarah, from coming from a place of generosity and sharing and kindness, like you said, because we really can transform our communities just through kindness. Don't you think?
So Cynthia made a comment, and I think that Sarah could talk to this about, she runs a nonprofit and she has some land and would love to do this, but she doesn't know how to farm. I don't think you really need to know how to farm.
It's the school of YouTube and places, people like Sarah, calls like this, you just learn along the way. And yes, I just want to mention Tia Saravino is on here. She has a great radio show, and she has an event coming up called Next Steps. And I'm going to be there in February. February 22nd through 25th. So please check. I'll be there. You will, Dr. Plasker. Awesome. Yes. So check out Next Steps. It's going to be a very powerful, it's all about what's next, like the future that we're creating. And Thomas, you had a question before we sign off? What's up?
Yeah, maybe this is a silly question, but are there recordings of these? Because this stuff needs to be shared.
Yes.
The recordings.
It all goes on the Neighborhood Food Network, all goes on YouTube, because YouTube is totally okay.
And I'll be sending an e-blast out tomorrow with all the links that were talked about today, all the links people post in the chats. I put that in the e-blast so that everybody, and then we post the video, and then we'll have a link on our website to it too. I'm rebuilding the website now. Hopefully, I'm hoping maybe next week we can release that.
Yeah, so the Neighborhood Food Network calls are all on YouTube. The Moms Connect calls are all on Rumble, because sometimes we talk about things that YouTube doesn't like. So yes, and you can check out nextsteps.info, and you can go to the unitygardens.org to find out more from.
Yes, and I just noticed they have a CSA, so that's great. I mean, what you're doing is fan. I mean, I don't know if you've seen in the
Yay!
comments,
Can we
there
all
are so many positive comments about what you're doing, and this is what we need to go for. And I have to tell you that I've told this story before, but I live on the north side of Milwaukee, and it's not the greatest area. And when I put my garden in, I had some neighborhood kids coming by that were curious, and we had a bunch of cherry tomatoes, and a couple of the girls loved them. And the little boy goes, "What is that? I've never had a tomato." And I said, "Oh my God, you have to have a tomato." And so I started trying to teach them. I taught a little boy how to plant potatoes, and it's so rewarding.
It is, it took us 4 years to have some of the kids from Beacon Heights try raspberries because, it's just not on their grocery list or at the food pantries. So it's just an example of some of the things we take for granted if we're not just sharing.
Yep, and we are sharing. And Carla, thank you so much. Yes, we do need to be self-sufficient. That is one of the major bonuses and of all of this. But as Sarah mentioned, for some people, they don't want to come from like, we need to, right? Like fear, like, because there are things that are happening in the future that can get us pretty shook up. But it's also very beneficial to come from, hey, let's just share. Let's just have fun and garden and create joy. Look how beautiful these flowers are. Look how delicious these tomatoes are. And a lot more people are enrolled in that. And I have to say that, this isn't a Moms Connect portion, I mean, Moms Across America portion of the call, but Moms Across America that we started this it was really all about empowerment and being family friendly and sharing the information that we had in a 4th of July parade. It was not about being against anything. Do you know what I mean? It was not about fear. It was not about protesting. It was always about creating healthy communities. And that's why we're really excited about this new program and this new nonprofit that we've created, Neighborhood Food Network, because it's all about creating solutions, all about creating health and having neighbors connect to create local food security and health and community, one street at a time. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us on this call. That was fantastic. I can't wait to check out more on your website and see more of the videos are great. Very good job by the videographer, by the way. Beautiful. You just we're right in the garden with you. It's beautiful.
That was actually Notre Dame did that for free for us, just a volunteer student who came from, they call it the Grotto, and then the one from USA Today and Now This News. So I don't take any credit for the videos. They have done a fantastic job.
Well, you should take some credit though, because here's the thing, when you do what you love, all the world conspires with you. And so you putting out your love had attracted people to, to sponsor what you're doing and to donate their time and to come give, and the tens of thousands of volunteers. You created that. So it's okay for you to bask in that and to take some credit and an acknowledgement, because when you do that, then it inspires other people to say, hey, you know what, maybe I can do that too.
So I don't know if you ever do any cover cropping on your crops in the fall, but Mark Dudla, who's on the call with us, messaged me and said, I think she needs a crimper. So he's making crimpers free for everybody. I'll contact you tomorrow with that information to grow cereal rye and crimp it down to
be a natural mulch.
Yeah, natural mulch, and to increase the biology of the soil, and it's wonderful. So he's building these all for free for everybody. So
yeah, we use a lot of cardboard, grass, clippings, leaves, what other people think are trash, food waste. But the crimpy thing's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I will send you information on that tomorrow.
Really great.
So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. This was a great call.
Great call. Thanks for the cats and the dogs too. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next week on the Neighborhood Food Network call as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.